Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Prophecy Wire. I am MacKenzie Drebit. Prophecy Wire is a live Bible study on current events where we answer your questions live. Today, we are going to be talking about labor unions. This is very personal right now for a lot of people. If you haven't seen, the East Coast is going through some really severe situation that possibly could take place in the next couple days. Tonight is the deadline for the labor unions on the seaports to have an answer if there's going to be a strike or not. And there's some things that could be implicated because of this, food shortages, etc. Before we get into this, I have some really exciting announcements that I want to share with you guys. And I want to welcome you back to Prophecy Wire because we've been on a little bit of a break, which isn't really a break because it was for our camp meeting. So we are super busy, but it was amazing. It was so exciting. We had a lot of people here, and it was just a really, really nice event. You don't want to miss these events that we do. And if you want to see the recordings from camp meeting, we're going to be releasing them really shortly on YouTube and on adtv.watch. So make sure you go to adtv.watch, create a login, because there you're going to get resources that you don't get on YouTube. We have the slides available, study guides, and everything to go with the presentations. So if you want to be understanding these more fully than just listening, and you want to be able to study them or share the information yourself personally with others, then make sure you go to adtv.watch for that. Also, we have Judgment Day. This is a project that we are starting, and it is going to be a really incredible project. It's a documentary project, and it is on the history of how Adventism has come to be the organization that it is, but it is from a totally different lens than anyone would probably expect. And we're talking about things that nobody else is talking about. And it almost seems like these things are put to the side intentionally. It almost seems because there's such incredible information that you guys need to hear. And it's right there for everyone to grasp and to read and to see. But it's like it's not even there. So we're going to be bringing out some really incredible stuff with that. And we are pulling out all the stops for this project. We want this to be absolutely incredible and not just an internal project for Adventists. No, not even close. This is specifically a sharing video. So not just one video. It might be one video, but it might be more videos because there's so much information for us to talk about. We're going to be launching really soon a website so that you guys can stay up to date with the project and you can see how it's going, where we're at, and also how you can contribute and how you can actually take part in the Judgment Day project. Also, we're setting up some meet and greets so we can see you guys face to face, talk to you guys about the project and other things that we're doing. And we might be doing one of those really soon because we are hitting the road. Yes, you heard me. We're hitting the road. We're heading to the East Coast in the next week or so, or a couple of weeks here. We don't know the exact date we're going to arrive, but we're going to be doing some filming to start the project. We're going to have to do this a couple times, but we're heading out there and we're going to be out there for a couple weeks, and we're going to try and set up some meetings that we can come and talk to you guys in person. So that's going to be really exciting. And we have a little bit of an update for Prophecy Wire. It's going to be a little bit different background than what it is right now because we're going to be on the road. So because we're on the road, it's going to look a little bit different than it does right now. We're going to be in different hotels or wherever we are on the road, and that's where we're going to be doing them from. Now, we do have a lot lined up to talk about not just today, but in the next few prophecy wires that are going to be coming out. A lot of incredible stuff. I actually had some other content working on today, and then this information came up, and I thought I just really needed to jump on and talk to you guys about this, because when we see prophecy fulfilling, it is exciting, and it proves to us how true that the Bible is. So, with that being said, make sure you guys are gathering your questions. So gather your questions, because like I said, Prophecy Wire is a live Bible study where we answer your questions live. You get to send your questions, chat them, and I will do my best and our team to be able to answer as much of those questions as possible. So get your questions ready. We're going to be talking about labor unions and the coming crisis. So without further ado, let us go to some news articles. So we're going to pull up some news articles here of what is happening right now. So if we look here, Fox News, and this is dated today, September 30th, 2024, 3 p.m., U.S. shoppers start to stock up on essentials as port strikes pressure prices to go higher than ever. So this is incredible. I mean, this could have such wide impact, and we're going to see this here. But what does this mean? I've been hearing from people personally on the East Coast how detrimental this actually could be. And the next line here, Americans at grocery store are stocking up as port strikes could begin at midnight on Tuesday. So it's happening very soon if there is not something that is done to alleviate this. So here's a video. They were talking an interview about how much impact this could actually have. 45,000 workers from 36 ports, and it could cost $5 billion a day. This is absolutely incredible, and could lose 4.5 to 7.5 billion in GDP per week. So this is not a small thing that we're talking about here. This is a really, really big thing. Yes, I am worried, another shopper told Allworth. It's hard to be able to make ends meet as it is. It's going to be even worse, because if this actually happens, so these 45,000 members on the East Coast, this could have your grocery store going really empty, and the cost of groceries could go a lot higher. Again, we have here the groceries most likely to experience shortages during a port strike. 45,000 people. The strike could cost 4.5 billion a day and would come with severe economic repercussions, as 40% of the products imported and exported from the US would be affected. That is an insurmountable number. This could cause long-term disturbance. A short little thing like this, because when we're looking at the grocery store chain, okay, and how the system of the grocery store works, it is only 3 days thick. So you have trucks coming in every single day, replenishing everything that is on the shelves. And within 3 days, everything will be gone. If you don't have things coming in, this happens really fast. And if people are worried, it happens even faster. We experienced this during the crisis that we had a couple of years ago, and there was shortages of things. This can cause a really big shortage as well. And we're going to see these kinds of things happening more and more and more and more and more frequently. I mean, the amount of things that have been happening in the world, just the last couple of years is absolutely phenomenal. And it's going at a breathtaking speed. It's like the birth pains it talks about in Revelation, that they get closer together and more severe. So this is going to be a really big thing that we're going to see how it all plays out in the next couple days. Time is running out to avoid a work stoppage at ports along the entire East and Gulf coasts in what could become the most disruptive strike in the US economy in decades. So this is quite something. Across 14 ports, uh, 36 facilities spread across 14 port authorities, there were few signs that a deal could be reached by the deadline set by the ILA and the United States Maritime Alliance, which uses the acronym USMX. So lifting wages nearly 50% over the life of the contract, and said both sides moved off their previous positions. So, and some of the other things that they were asking for is that they don't want to go to automated equipment. They want to keep it manual so that they can keep their jobs and things like this. So this is really serious. This is something that is going to affect a lot of people, especially on the East Coast, but also across the entire nation, because again, it's 40% of the imports are coming from that side. So this is going to have a really big effect. Now, what we need to think about here is what this means for us as a people, as Christians, and as Bible-believing people in prophecy. How does this play into prophecy? What is this going to look like? Is this, just something that's going to go away? Is it going to get worse? And questions like these. So to start, let's open our Bible to the book of Revelation. So we're turning to the book of Revelation, and we are going to chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13. And I just want to let you guys know, we have a free sharing book on this very topic, and it is called Labor Unions and Their Role in Sunday Law. And you can go to our website, amazingdiscoveries.org, and in front of that, if you put laborunions.amazingdiscoveries.org, then it will take you to this book. So labor unions and their role in Sunday law. Make sure you go there and download that. That is a fantastic resource. So again, make sure you're gathering your questions, putting them in the chat. So whether it's YouTube, whether it is on X or it's on Facebook, make sure you put a comment there, and then we're going to try and get to your questions. And the questions should be surrounding this sort of topic. What does this have to do with the last day events, with prophecy, with the final crisis, Sunday law, etc.? So we're in Revelation 13, and we're going to read verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So this beast has two horns, and those two horns, and it's lamb-like, is Protestantism and what's the other horn? I'm forgetting right now. We have Protestantism and Republicanism. Thank you. Republicanism and Protestantism. So these principles that this beast was founded on, that it had in its beginning, are lamb-like. They're Christ-like. Republicanism, that there is every man has his own rights. We the people. And Protestantism, which Protestantism is based on protesting a unity of church and state, where the church rules the state and the state rules the church, and that they function together. And that just comes for a terrible oppression against certain groups of people that don't have the same mindset. But it says it will speak as a dragon. Okay. And he exerciseth, this is in verse 12, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him. So this beast before him was the papal beast. And it's going to exercise all the power of that and cause the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So eventually, at the end of this whole scenario, those who don't follow this image of the beast, this system, and when you have an image of something, an image is something that looks like something else. So this first beast of chapter 13 is the papal beast. And its structure, okay, was a political, religious structure combined, church-state structure. And this image that's going to be created is going to be a church-state structure. And that image then is going to put forth a mark, okay? So it says here in the next verse, verse 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. So once the image is formed, this church-state coalition is formed, they're going to create a mark in their, and to receive the mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. So in what they do and what they think and what they choose. So this is something that is really important and critical for us right now. And we need to make sure that we're not on the wrong side of history here. So we need to be aware what this mark is. And it says in verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So they're not going to be able to buy or sell. Now, we might feel a little bit of this with the strike that's happening. If we don't have goods here, then we might not be able to buy those goods. But that's happening to everyone. This is going to happen to a specific group, but it's not going to be that you won't be able to buy a lot or it'll be sparse. It won't be able to buy anything. So you'll be not allowed to buy, that you won't be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast, and that's not something you want. You want the seal of God, not the mark of the beast. So we need to be knowing, and we need to be giving this message, and that's what the next chapter talks about in the three angels' message. It's warning people not to take the mark of the beast, because you might think that you get away scot-free, but that's not the case. Because those who have the mark of the beast and enforce the mark of the beast are going to receive of the wine of the wrath of God in the 7 last plagues. And we don't want to be part of that. I would much rather have the world and the beast's wrath than God's wrath. So we are going to go to some slides. I have some very interesting quotes here to share with you guys. And again, make sure you're putting your questions in the chat, and our team here is going to help to get these questions answered. Okay. So we have our union strike Will it come to food shortage? Will it not? We're going to see here right away, and the coming crisis. Now, what does these labor unions have to do with what we're talking about here, which is a no buy, no sell, and the coming crisis? Country Living, page 12. Those who claim to be the children of God are in no case to bind up with the labor unions that are formed or that shall be formed. This the Lord forbids. Cannot those who study the prophecies see and understand what is before us? This is a very straight statement, and I understand there's probably people listening and watching right now that are part of the different labor unions, but these unions, in the end, are going to have a really bad turn. They maybe were founded seeming that it was for the people. Now, church state is seeming to be for the people too. But in the end, the devil's going to use this to persecute God's people, and he's going to use these labor unions to do this also. So that is not something that we want to be part of. We don't want to be part of church state coming together, and we don't want to be part of these labor unions that is actually going to help to influence into these acts that are going to be punishing God's people. Country Living, page 11. For years, I have been given special light that we are not to center our work in the cities. The turmoil and confusion that fill these cities, the conditions brought about by the labor unions and the strikes would prove a great hindrance to our work. So again, the labor unions and the strikes would prove a great hindrance to our work. If we believe what the prophet is saying, we're going to see this really close in the future. We see these strikes happening now. If you don't have food, if you don't have transport, if you don't have other things, because this is going to continue, this is going to be heating up more and more and more, and we're going to see these things are going to affect our ability to get the message out, which is why we have to work so hard now in order to do this. Men are seeking to bring those engaged in the different trades under bondage to certain unions. This is not God's planning, but the planning of a power that we should in no wise acknowledge. God's word is fulfilling. The wicked are binding themselves up in bundles ready to be burned. We are now to use all our entrusted capabilities in giving the last warning message to the world. What is that final message? In this work, we are to preserve our individuality. That's republicanism, individuality. We are not to unite with secret societies, or with trade unions. We are to stand free in God, looking constantly to Christ for instruction. All our movements are to be made with a realization of the importance of the work to be accomplished for God. We should not be connecting to these organizations because they're going to set up these systems that are going to persecute God's people. Now, what is this last warning to the world? And this is a really good question. And we need to know, because if we're giving this last warning, we need to know what the last warning is. So if you go back to Revelation, we were in the end of 13. If we go to chapter 14, we see this group of people, this 144,000, that has a special message to give to the world. And we hear this message, which starts in verse 6 of chapter 14, Revelation 14 and verse 6. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel. Does that mean it expires? Does it get old? Do we need a new message? Do we need an updated gospel? Or is this the everlasting gospel? to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. And worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of water. So it says here in verse 7, with a loud voice, for the hour of his judgment is come. This is part of the everlasting gospel. This is part of our message that we need to be giving. The hour of his judgment is come. When was that hour? And we talk about this in our camp meeting, so you're not going to want to miss, because a lot of people think, oh, the 2,300 days. You know, let's go to the comments here, and I'm going to ask a couple questions to the comments. So we'll get to your guys' questions here in a moment, but I'm going to ask a question, and let's see what people have to say. So the question is, when was the hour of his judgment come? When did that happen? When was the hour of his judgment come? I want to see what people have to say. Okay. So while people are answering that, when is that? And when did that happen? The hour of his judgment come. And let's see what people have to say. We're going to continue. So the next is Babylon is fallen. Now, this is not Babylon, the papacy. This is Babylon, the apostate Protestant churches who have fallen away from Christ. They have not followed Christ into the most holy place, and they have not understood the prophecies of Revelation 14. Now, we don't have time to cover all of this right now, but make sure, again, you don't miss those camp meeting videos, because we talk about this in great detail. Now, if we go to the third angel's message, it says, with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture. So this is a big warning that we need to take heed of, because if we are found in that group, either by belief or because we weren't ready for the mark of the beast, we weren't ready for the no buy, no sell, and therefore we're pressured. Maybe we're hungry. Maybe our kids are hungry. Maybe whatever's happening, and we think the only option is to compromise. This is really serious. Okay, let's see what people had to say. When is the hour of his judgment come? We have a couple different answers here. October 22, 1844 at the cross, judging right now. Okay. So we have some right answers here. Now, the one correct answer is October 22, 1844. Now, let me ask a new question for everybody online. How do we know that? How do we get to 1844? Can anybody give me an answer of how we get to 1844 as the year that the judgment has started, or that we're in the judgment time? Can anybody answer that for me? So write in the comments again if you have an idea or know how 1844 is the year that the judgment was started. So the third angel followed with a loud voice, and it talks about the people who worship this image. Now, this isn't the last angel's message, okay? We have to go 4 chapters later in order to find it. And we're in chapter 18. Chapter 18 of Revelation. And we're going to read the first couple verses. Revelation 18, the first couple verses. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power. Same wording. So there's another angel coming. This is the fourth angel, the fourth angel message. Okay? Having great power. And the earth was lighted with his glory. And what does light represent? It represents truth. So this angel is bringing light. It's bringing truth to God's people, to the entire world, in fact. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So we have this message, but it sounds very similar so far to the second and third angel's message. And there's a reason for this. Okay, let's go to the comments here and see what we have. So Jamie A says the 2300-day prophecy in Daniel. Johann Frederick Hansen says 2300 evening and morning. Hazel Ann Ellis, and I apologize if I don't say your names perfectly correct. From the beginning of the decree to destroy Jerusalem, and Richard Baptiste, the 2300 prophecy. Okay. So this is correct. So we have this prophecy, and we're going to come back to this final message here in a moment. And we have, I think, a couple more quotes to read as well after this. But let's go to the book of Daniel really, really quickly. So Daniel chapter 8, and we're going to read verse 14. Daniel 8 and verse 14. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So there is a sanctuary that is being talked about here, and this is the sanctuary that's in heaven. Everything that we have on earth, that we had, the original temple, the original tabernacle that was in the wilderness, was fashioned after the likeliness of the temple in heaven. So in heaven, there is a sanctuary there. And after 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Now, what is the cleansing of the sanctuary? Well, this brings us to the Day of Atonement, because once a year in the tabernacle, there would be something called the Day of Atonement. And this would happen after. Now, let's go to Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23, 27. Getting a little bit off track here, but this is good for you guys. Leviticus 23, 27. Also on the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement, and it shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. So the 10th day of the 7th month is when this Day of Atonement was supposed to happen. And it's after here, the antitypical time, the 2,300 days. Now we know from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 4 and verse 6. Ezekiel 4:6 says, I have appointed thee each day for a year. So when we see the 2,300 days here, it's actually 2,300 years. So 2,300 years, and this starts from the decree to go and rebuild Jerusalem. And we see this in the next chapter of Daniel, Daniel 9, verse 25. Very crash course on the 2,300-day prophecy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to rebuild Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 70 weeks and 62 weeks. Now, there's two prophecies that start with this decree, the 2300 days and the 70 weeks, and they're connected, okay? But for our sake, this 2300 days, and it starts at the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, which was Artaxerxes' decree, King Artaxerxes' decree. Now, this is going to bring us from 457 BC, when the decree happened, all the way forward to 1844. And we're not going to get into some of the discrepancies because people are going to use a calculator, 1843, 1844. That's for another time. Now, there's another question, which is, how do we get to October 22? And this is a question that most people cannot answer. And this is a very important question. Now, I'm very curious if anybody online listening right now is able to answer that. Does anybody know why the judgment, the hour of his judgment is come, happened on October 22, 1844? If we can get people answering that, I'd be very curious to see. Now, we're not going to talk about this today. So you're going to have to see in the cam meeting videos, we talk about all of this and we go into great detail, and you'll be able to get the slides and the notes, and you'll be able to study it for yourself. It's incredible, that study. So now we are back in Revelation 18, this fourth angel's message, this last warning. And it's a warning to the people who are living right at the end. Now, it's the same as the first three messages. So it's just repeated with more power. And why does it have more power? Because we're in the events that are taking place. This is incredible stuff. So Revelation 18, verse 3, and it talks about the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So we have a connection to these money-making systems here. And it goes through all of this in the rest of chapter 18. Verse 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues. This is a warning we need to be giving to the world. You do not want to be receiving of the plagues that God is sending on the earth. They are going to be horrific. Daniel chapter 12, and you probably wonder how I'm just flipping with one flip to the chapters. This is my study Bible. This is what I use all the time. So there's memory built into this book here. Daniel 12, verse 1. At that time, and this is why a book is, I like, so much nicer than digital. You don't get that real connection. At that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. Now, where's he standing up? He is standing up from that most holy place in the sanctuary. And we're just talking about that. He went into the most holy, October 22, 1844, and he's going to stand up and come out. And when he comes out, probation closes, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Now, God's people will be protected through this because it says it right in this verse here. But this is going to be a time of trouble such as never was. This time of trouble for the world is the plagues are falling on the world. Now, I'm going to go back to the chat here so I don't lose you guys. Okay. So we have Jay Davis says we get to October 22 by calendar of the Jews. Deborah Mitchell says Day of Atonement. We have Siegfried Penner. We need to find the first month of the year. That's my father-in-law, by the way. Pat Morant. They thought the Lord was coming in 1844. Hazelan. It was the day the believers at that time thought Jesus was coming back. Javuan, I apologize. On the Gregorian calendar is equivalent to the 10th day of the 7th month of the Jewish calendar. Previous question. I wish to understand difference between his ministry before 1804 and after. Okay, this is fantastic. I love all of these answers. And honestly, we're going to have to jump into this in another prophecy wire because this is super important. Now, please go watch the camping videos. They're going to be released soon. If you missed the live stream, next time don't miss it. But if you missed the live stream, they're going to be released soon. So make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe on all of our platforms because we're on many. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on X. I don't remember all the places. We're on Roku, we're on Amazon Fire, and all these places. Now, make sure you hit the bell notification because some people are getting turned off, and you need to click that again so that you get notified when we're doing something and when we're doing an event and a live stream so you don't miss it. And we will talk about all of this. So if I could get the people here, can you grab some of these questions about the 23rd days, 1844, and save them for one of our next streams so that we can answer these again. Now, don't miss it. So make sure you don't miss the next stream, but we're going to save these and so that we can answer all of your guys' questions. Okay, now I'm going to go back because there was some other questions on some of the other topics. Okay. Now we had a question here. The Protestant America has been considered the New World since the 1500s. So the New World Order is really the order of the second Roman beast of America, is it not? Secretly run by Rome and her one world religion. Now, here's the thing. Now, this idea, I really believe that the concept of the secret societies can go a little bit too far sometimes, because when America was founded, it was founded on godly principles, republicanism and Protestantism. Now, what that did was it did give an inroad for some of these organizations, but you can't stop that. Because unless you're going to impose your will on everyone, then you can't stop them from coming in. But these were good principles and these were godly principles. It wasn't the second Rome. They left Rome. They left the persecution of Rome to come to America and to be Protestant. Now, when Abraham Lincoln and these early people were talking about how to run America, they debated if they would not allow certain religions, especially Catholicism, to even be in America. But they said, well, we're basically doing the same thing then, so we can't do that. Now, again, this goes back to God's character. Did God say, well, if you don't agree with me, then it's done? No, he gave us free will. He gave us free will. That's why we're in the mess we're in, because God allowed us to have free will. So this is really a godly principle. Now, in the end, it's going to show that choosing sin and choosing wrong wasn't the right choice. But America was founded on these great principles, and really they have to remove the Constitution in order to enforce the final crisis. So they're working on that, by the way. They really want to change the Constitution And we've seen parts of that, and we've talked about that in previous prophecy wires. But it was founded on Christ-like principles. Question. Arnold Schmidt, didn't Mrs. White say the unions would bring down America and a civil war would result? That is correct. Not maybe in those exact words, but these things are going to lead to a civil war. Now, we're not talking about civil war today. Maybe we'll get into that in another conversation. We did talk about civil war. If you go to our 4 Nashville videos that just totally went viral, if you go to our 4 Nashville videos, in some of the last ones, we do talk about civil war in America, because this is something that is that is prophesied and that we should be aware about. And it's very serious. We're going to be seeing wars and rumors of wars, and it's going to be right close to home. And we need to be ready for that. And how to be ready for that is what we're going to be talking about. Next question. Vector Christmas. How long will the Antichrist reign during the sealing of the mark? Okay. Great question. Great question. Could we have that question copied? Because I don't think we're going to be able to answer that fully, respectively, today with a long enough time. So if we could grab that question, how long will the Antichrist reign during the sealing of the mark? And we'll answer that in one coming up. Let's put that in a document, and we will talk about that in detail. We're going to be seeing some really, really mind-blowing and disturbing things as this prophecy reveals, because again, it says that there's going to be miracles performed, and they're going to be we're going to see these lying wonders. We just think, they're going to enforce a Sunday law and it's just going to roll along, but we're going to see such incredible things that people are going to wonder, how can it be wrong? They're doing all these miracles. They're healing. They're this. They're bringing fire from heaven, literal fire from heaven. We will see. So I'm going to jump down here again. Okay. Shatona Thomas. So going to church on Sunday. Okay, great question. I assume what she's asking is going to church on Sunday wrong, or the mark of the beast, or something like this? This is a fantastic question. Now, I will do my best in a very short amount of time to give an answer to this, but we should do an entire, I believe we did do an early prophecy wire on this very topic. So if you want to go back on some of our earlier prophecy wires, I don't remember if it was called Introduction to the Crisis, or something about the mark of the beast. If you want to go back there, I believe we went in depth on that. But really quickly, if we look at what's happening here in Revelation chapter 13, it really spells it out really easily. So it says in chapter 13, and if we go to, let's see here. Let's go to verse 1. Let's start in verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So we see this terrible beast. It's coming out of the sea. We know this isn't a real beast. This is a figure that is used. And what does the sea represent? Well, if we go to Revelation 17, verse 15, it says that the waters which thou sawest are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. So it's coming out of a populated area. And this beast here in Revelation 13, the first part is the papacy. And we can go through all the details here, and you will see that it perfectly lines up with this. Now, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads that were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Okay, so he's going to have a deadly wound at some point. Now, we need to find out when that deadly wound was. And was there a power, and was it the papacy that did receive a deadly wound? And yes, it did indeed. In 1798, Berthier came from France and took the Pope captive, and he died in prison. Now, he took him captive on February 15, 1798. And this was this deadly wound that happened to the papacy. Their head died, and they were without a pope for several years. So we have this wound on its head. Now the wound, now they do have a pope again. Now let's go down, and it says that he has a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Okay, what is blasphemy? Well, when Jesus said, I am, and said he can forgive sin, the Pharisees said he spoke blasphemy. Blasphemy is speaking as you are God and speaking against God, and that you can forgive sin. Now, does the papacy do that? Absolutely, they do. They say that they have the ability to forgive your sins. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And yes, Shatona, I am answering your question, but I need to give you the background. So 42 months. Now, we just read in Ezekiel 4, verse 6, that every day is for a year. So 42 months times 30 would be 1,260 days, 1,260 years. Now, did the papacy rule for 1,260 years? Emphatically, yes. From 538 to 1798, they were the world superpower. So all this is matching up here. Now, and he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And if we continue down, we're going to see, give me one moment here. Because I don't want to read the entire chapter for everyone. Okay. So, again, we are having to see that he is going to okay, give me one moment. Let's read verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life. So he's commanding worship. Now, if we go to Daniel chapter 7, I believe, in Daniel chapter 7, and it says here, Daniel 7 and verse 25, and this is the same power. Okay, this one in Daniel 7:25, and in the first part of Revelation 13. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and dividing a time. And that time, times, and dividing a time is the same 1,260 years, 538 to 1798. Now, it says that he's going to do against the Most High, and he's going to change God's times and God's laws. Okay? So he has to change something that has to do with God's law, but has a time stamp connected to it. Let's go to the book of Exodus. So this kingdom, this power, this papacy is going to change one of God's laws that have to do with time. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 10. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth and sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So here it says that the seventh day is the Sabbath. Now, if we read verse 8, I skipped the first two verses here. Let's go back to verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work. So the Sabbath, the seventh day of the week, Saturday, is the day that God has given for us to worship him. Give me one moment here. Okay. And it says, remember, because people have forgotten. Now, I have in the back of my Bible a couple things here. One of these things is the Converts Catechism of Catholic Doctrine. Okay? And we're going to read on page 50. Okay. And it says, what is the third commandment? Now, we just read the fourth commandment, but they have changed one of the commandments and removed them. So their fourth becomes the third, and then they add one at the end. What is the third commandment or fourth? Answer: the third commandment is, remember that thou keep holy the Sabbath day. Which is the Sabbath day? Answer: Saturday is the Sabbath day. Question: why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? Answer: we observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. So, right here, it is because the Catholic Church transferred the solemnity. And there is quote after quote after quote that we could read where they claim to have the power to change the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. And this is not something that God changed. When God set something and he set it in stone, it is to last. We don't believe we can kill now. We don't believe that we can lie now, steal now, commit adultery now. And why would we think that we can change God's Sabbath? Now, this is an entire longer study, but I hope this gave you a little bit of a glimpse here. And again, if we read Revelation 13:17, it says that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast. Now, if I could get one of our people here to grab the quote from the Catholic Church where they say that this is their mark, and if you could grab that for us, and we'll put that on the screen so that you guys can see that. Okay. Thank you, Shatona, for the question. Try check one of the other prophecy wires, and we have a lot of these things in there. Okay. Question: did Mrs. White say America would repudiate the Constitution? I don't know if she has a specific quote saying that specifically, but in order for them to do the laws that they are going to do, it will remove all rights and freedoms from the people, and we know that is going to be the case. And she talks extensively about that. Rosemary Cooper. Hi, MacKenzie. Can you guide me to the bookmark for symbols in Revelation that you mentioned in the last episode? Do you mean this one? The Bible symbols bookmark. Oop, that's out of focus. Has to go back here. And it's really dark. Bible symbols bookmark. Yes. So if you go, you can call Amazing Discoveries. You can go to our website. You can email us. Now, you can buy them bulk if you want to share them. We sell packs of these, but you can also get them for free. So if you contact AD through support@amazingdiscoveries.org, and you can request one there, or you can call our office at 1-866-572-9457 and ask for the Bible symbols bookmark, and you will get that. This has some really amazing things on it. It has the Bible verses. It talks about what do angels represent? What is Babylon? The bottomless pit, clothing, crowns, day, earth, all sorts of really good stuff on here. Now, while you're at it, ask for this one. This is William Miller Rules bookmark, and this is called Miller's Rules because he formulated them. But these are Bible rules because with everyone, he has Bible verses to support each of those rules. And we would do well to heed these rules when studying the Bible. So make sure you grab these two things when you are going to your Bible studies because they're a big help. Okay. Now it looks like we have some more things here. Okay, we have some quotes that we're going to put on the screen here, and then we'll go to another question. Okay, so if we read here, this is from 5T 451. So Testimonies for the Church, Volume 5, page 451. And it says, is well to remind the presbyter. Oh, okay. This is the. Oh, sorry. I'm reading the wrong reference. Okay. This is from Priest Brady in an address reported in the Elizabeth, New Jersey News on March 18, 1903. If we could get you to copy that and put that on the screen for everyone, that'd be great. So I'll wait for it to show up there. Just give us a moment and we will share that on the screen so that you guys can see it. It might be a little bit long for us to show on the screen. It's too long. So can we cut it into sections maybe? Let's copy just from here and see. Okay, we can do it in sections. So we'll read it by section. It's well to remind the Presbyterians, Baptists, Methodists, and all other Christians that the Bible does not support them anywhere in their observance of Sunday. Sunday is an institution of the Roman Catholic Church, and those who observe the day observe, of course, the Catholic Church. The commandments, it looks like it cut it off a little bit for me. Observe the commandments of the Catholic Church. And this was from Priest Brady in an address, March 9, March 18, 1903. Okay. Of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change was her act, and the act. Now let's grab. This is another quote here. We'll put this on the screen for you guys, showing that this mark, because this is the mark of the beast, and the beast is the papacy. So what does she say her mark is? And it says, of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change was her act, and the act is a mark of her ecclesiastical power and authority in religious matters. And that's exactly what we're talking about, because this is a religious law that is going to take place to cause people not to be able to buy or sell. So they claim this for themselves. And let's go back. There was one question by Wesley Scarborough. And Wesley's question is, when it's talking about unions, how do you know it's not talking or referring to police unions and sheriff unions / law enforcement unions, bringing in the enforcement of the times and laws? This makes more sense. So, because now, if you take a look at our booklet, our ebook, for labor unions and the coming Sunday law, it's very clear in there that it isn't only those unions. It is the other unions as well. And we're going to see that here. I'm going to read a couple more quotes. So if we can get the slides back up on the screen. And let's see here. Country Living, page 10. The work of the people of God is to prepare for the events of the future, which will soon come upon them with blinding force. Now, blinding force, just like the storm that just hit the East Coast, came with blinding force and so much destruction, this storm is going to hit us with blinding force and destruction, because it is a storm. And by the way, we are going to talk a little bit about what happened on the East Coast in another prophecy wire coming up here. We're going to probably have several in the next, really close together. So stay tuned. Make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. Men will. Sorry, I skipped a line. In the world, gigantic monopolies will be formed. And this is not talking about police, I'm sure. Men will bind themselves together in unions that will wrap them in the folds of the enemy. A few men will combine to grasp all the means to be obtained in certain lines of business. So again, these are business unions, and they're going to be making rules and laws that you can't be part of a certain group or this or that or the other. If you don't take the mark, you can't buy, you can't work, you can't do anything. Okay? Trade unions will be formed, and those who refuse to join these unions will be marked men. So this is really serious, and this is coming to America. The time is fast coming when the controlling power of the labor unions will be very oppressive. Again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the country, where they can raise their own provisions, for in the future the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. It won't be small. It won't be like this little thing that we can work around. It will be very serious. We should now begin to heed the instruction given us over and over again. Get out of the cities into rural districts where the houses are not crowded closely together, and where you'll be free from the interference of enemies. That is what we need right now, is we need to be getting into the country as fast as possible. Make haste slowly. Don't rush. But God will help each person to do this task. And this is a warning that Revelation 13 is giving. The Lord has instructed our people to take their families away from the cities into the country to raise their own provisions. Now, what are provisions? What are provisions? Provisions. Now, let me ask this to the people online. Can you put in the chat, what are provisions? If we need to raise our own provisions, what does that consist of? Okay. And again, if we aren't able to buy and sell, what will that cover? Because provisions and buying and selling things is going hand in hand here. What are those provisions? And what are we not able to buy and sell? Please put that in the comments and let's see what everybody has to say. Now, I want to, while we're doing that, something just came to mind. If we're preparing to be part of this group that is giving this last message, that's going to live through the time of this this mark, this decree, this no buy, no sell, there's a very interesting part to this. Now, if we read, let's see here, in the book of Daniel, we're going to the book of Daniel. Okay. There's an interesting flow of events here. And in the first chapter, it talks about Daniel and his three friends. And in verse 5, it says, and the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat. And you'd think this is great. This is the king's. This is the best in the whole world, because Babylon was a world power and they were filthy rich. So they had the best of the best of the best. Now, verse 8. Daniel 1, verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. And what did he ask to eat? In verse 12, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. So he drank water, fresh water, and he asked for pulse. Pulse is like a bean stew, vegetable stew. So he ate a vegetarian, not just vegetarian, but plant-based diet. And this enabled him to be healthy, but it also enabled him to have a clear mind, because he didn't have all these hormones and all these things going through his mind. And then something happens. And Nebuchadnezzar has the bright idea to create an image. And this image is in the likeness of himself, all gold. And he then makes a law to either bow and worship this image, or you will be killed. But these Hebrew boys who had proven that they had perseverance in diet and they had a clear mind were able to withstand this law to worship or die. And we need to have the same strength. Are we going to be able to stand when they say worship or die or starve or not be able to buy or sell? Okay, let's go back to the chats. So we have food and water. Another person said food and water. Food, water, and the word. I like that. Food, water, electricity, gas, etc. Very good. Goods and services. That's something that maybe people aren't thinking of as goods and services. Food and water on your property. The bartering system helping those who are less fortunate. Okay, so let's talk about this very briefly. We're going to have to end the stream for tonight. But it's been great. I really, really like all of your guys' answers here. So we have another answer here. If we're not able to buy or sell, this affects most things. Thus, we need to ask God for wisdom to prepare for the little time of trouble, getting back to basics of growing our own food. Thank you, Todd, for adding that. That is fantastic. And this is the thing. Now, in Revelation 14, verse 12, it says, "Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God, all 10, even the Sabbath, and have the faith of Jesus." It's not in Jesus, it's of Jesus. We have to have as much faith that Jesus had in the trials that he went through. When we're looking at this time of trouble, this no buy, no sell, where we're going to have to raise our own provisions, that's a time of immense faith. People think, oh, you're leaving the city, you're going to the country, you're trying to save yourself. When God told Noah to build an ark, it was for the saving of his house, physically and spiritually, because when we obey God physically, it changes us spiritually. Now, if we obey him in diet, if we obey him in where to live, how to live, in preparing the ark, and Noah put everything into it, it takes a lot. It takes sacrifice. He did this for 120 years. Now people are worried, oh, what if this is not going to happen for a long time? It's a big thing to prepare property. It's a big thing to learn all the skills to raise your provisions. We had some of these provisions written about now. Food. So how do you grow your own food? How much food do you need to grow? And we're going to talk about this. We're starting a new podcast, How to Country podcast, and that's on our other YouTube channel. So make sure you go check it out, the How to Country YouTube channel, and you'll see How to Country YouTube. And we talk about everything country living there. And we're going to start a podcast there where we are going to break down all of these things about how much to grow and all of this. We also are going to start working on some courses that you guys can take, some resources to help you with this, because I know it's very confusing and it's overwhelming for people who grew up in the city and don't know what plants look like, don't know how to do these things, how you raise your food, where do you get your water, what if you don't have electricity and you can't get the water out of your well, what if there's a storm, what if all of these things, how do you preserve your food through the winter? And there's a lot of things that go into that question. This is why Noah took so long to build the ark. He had to think ahead about the real severity of the crisis, the storm that was going to approach. And we have to be thinking, because it's going to be very serious. Now, God promises that he will get every one of his people a place in the country, however that is. Maybe it's not the way you expect it. Maybe he'll gift it to you. Maybe he will have you be with someone else and help them. Maybe someone's going to ask you to come to their property. It's, God has 1,000 ways that we know not. So we don't need to be worrying. We need to be praying for these things. Now, again, on the next Prophecy Wire, we'll talk about the Day of Atonement, because there's a lot of questions on that, and it is so important. So we'll talk about maybe not the exact next one, but one of the upcoming ones really soon. We're going to talk about that. I know there's lots of questions there. Again, go to the labor unions ebook and download that. We also have it as a physical booklet, so you can get the physical booklet too and share it. Same way, contact our office, go to support at Amazing Discoveries, and you'll be able to get that. We also have, again, our bookmarks that you don't want to miss, Miller's Rules and our Bible symbols bookmark. We also have bookmarks that are Bible studies with all the verses on here, like the Sabbath and others. So make sure you check those out as well. Now, we have another series that's really exciting that I'm really excited about, and that is our Oxen series that's coming up. And this has to do with country living and how you're going to work your field and work your land, and how are you gonna haul your wood in order to heat your house and cook. Well, we're gonna be showing you an interview that we had with a gentleman who is using oxen to run his market garden, and it is going to be so incredible. There's, I think, around 4 hours of interview, so you don't want to miss that. We're gonna be releasing that. We'll probably have an event of that, a summit that we're going to do with added information. So you guys don't want to miss that, because we're going to have special things in the summit. If we do an event, you got to join the event, because you might see some of the videos later, but you won't be able to participate in actually part of the summit. And there's perks for actually joining our events. So make sure you don't miss that. And also stay tuned for updates on Judgment Day and our meetups. So when we're going to the East Coast here in the next couple weeks, make sure you follow, because we're going to be having destinations and places where you can come and talk to us and see us. And we're going to be doing some presentations, talking about our projects, and just getting to meet up with you guys, which will be fantastic. Shatona Thomas asks where I can get the Catholic book that I have here. So this, I don't believe we carry this at the moment. I believe you might be able to get this from Teach Services, the Convert's Catechism of Catholic Doctrine. So shout out to Teach Services. I believe you can get it from them. Now, remember, all these things take a lot of effort and time. I mean, we're jumping on here because there's things happening in the world that need to be talked about. We're packing to get ready to go, but I really felt that we needed to talk to you about these things that are happening, because you need to be warned. And when the signs show and the birth pains are getting closer and closer and closer, that means we need to be woken up, and we need support for all these things. So if you can support us in any way possible, whether that's through your prayers or financial support, or in being part of our events, sharing things, all of that helps. Now, if you like some of the different projects that we're going to be working towards, like Judgment Day, like Prophecy Wire, or any of our other programs, make sure you support those so that we can continue bringing you this information, sharing this information with the world. And yeah, make sure you have your questions ready. We're doing this so that you guys can feel connected and feel heard, and that you can ask these questions in an open forum here on Prophecy Wire. So we thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're going to be wrapping up for today, but make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe. Share this with your friends, your family, your enemies. We want all of them in heaven, and we want all of them ready for the events coming, because when they see them happen, then they can be woken up, and they can understand that the Bible is true. So let's end with a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us these signs, these warnings, these waymarks. Lord, for waking us all up. Lord, different events will wake up different people. And we need your strength, and we need your guidance as we are moving from the places of destruction, because we know that judgment is coming to the cities. And we need to be in a place where those judgments do not affect us. Lord, give us wisdom as we move forward. We want to be obedient to all of your commands, and we want to get ready for the crisis that is coming, this no-buy, no-sell time period for only those who do not take the mark of the beast, and we do not want this. Lord, we much rather face you and honor you and take the wrath of the world than the wrath of your 7 last plagues. Lord, guide each of these people in their study, and may you keep them until we meet again, until we see again on the next Prophecy Wire. And we ask that you'd be with each of them and be with amazing discoveries. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, everyone, again for joining me on Prophecy Wire. I'm MacKenzie Drebit. This is a live Bible study where you guys get to answer questions, and I answer them as best that I can with the grace of God for you and your journey to be closer with Christ and with your Bibles. Have a good night, and we'll see you in the next